Good to have you with us on this Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining us today. We are, of course, kicking off a week that could be unlike any other in our country's history, with the election now just 1 day away.
For months, it has been a neck-and-neck race between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. And our final national NBC News poll ahead of the election reflects, well, exactly that. The poll shows both candidates getting the support of 49% of registered voters, with just 2% of voters saying they're unsure about their choice. It is slated to be a busy final day of the campaign for both VP Harris and Mr. Trump. They both have several campaign events on the schedule today, including multiple stops in the all-important battleground state of Pennsylvania. Over the weekend, the candidates made their final pitches to voters.
We stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. You watch. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be nasty a little bit at times, and maybe at the beginning in particular, but it's going to be something.
We have an opportunity in this election to finally turn the page on a decade of politics driven by fear and division. We are done with that, and we are exhausted with it.
Many voters continued to take advantage of early voting, according to the latest data from Target Smart and analyzed by the NBC News Decision Desk. More than 76 million people have already cast their ballots.
Leading us off this morning, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who's covering the Trump campaign. Also, NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa, who's following Vice President Harris. Good morning to both of you. Vaughn, you are in North Carolina, where former President Trump is starting his day. But let's recap a busy weekend on the campaign trail, visiting important swing states. Mr. Trump shared his vision with supporters, also continued to air out grievances, including against the media. What are some of the takeaways?
It was a freewheeling weekend for Donald Trump here, not only suggesting that he should never have left the White House after the 2020 election. Of course, he left down to Mar-a-Lago just hours before Joe Biden was sworn in on Inauguration Day. But for him, so much of this was also painting a dark image of what he says America would look like under a Harris administration, suggesting that the country would go into economic depression, as well as people would start feeling depressed and that people would lose their jobs. And for Donald Trump, of course, we heard a similar type of message 4 years ago, suggesting that the stock market would crash under Joe Biden. Much of that did not come to fruition. But for Donald Trump, he is trying to use the consequences he says would take place under a Harris administration to try to compel his supporters to make sure that they turn out and vote here in these last now 36 hours. I want to let you also listen to another one of his remarks when talking about the press corps. Take a listen.
And I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news, and I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind.
And this is one of those situations here where Donald Trump is not trying to moderate his message by any means. Instead, he is using denigrating language about Kamala Harris, calling her low IQ. And for Donald Trump, this is how he's run for the last 9 years. And clearly, in these closing hours, how he is personally choosing to finish off this crucial campaign.
Ali, let's bring you in here and talk about the other side of this, the Harris campaign. Also a busy day ahead with multiple stops in Pennsylvania. Where's she going and what's her messaging today, especially to that tiny 2% of undecided voters that we saw in this NBC News poll in these final hours here?
Yeah, guys, the vice president is going to focus her last day on a must-win Pennsylvania, a state that she admits is critical to her path to victory here. And she'll start off her day in Scranton, Pennsylvania, before heading to Allentown for a massive Get Out the Vote rally. Tonight, she'll head to Pittsburgh for another rally, and then finally end this campaign with a star-studded campaign event in Philadelphia, right in front of the Art Museum there, those famous Rocky Steps. And among the stars and celebrities expected to appear there are Lady Gaga, Ricky Martin, as well as Oprah. Now, as far as the vice president's closing message here, it's one of hope and unity. Remember, she has continued to say that the American people are exhausted from the chaotic and divisive rhetoric, she says, that Trump represents. And in a notable shift from past speeches, during her speech yesterday in Lansing, Michigan, she notably did not mention the former president by name, sort of a capstone on this campaign and on that messaging of turning the page and moving on from former President Trump. Listen to some of her remarks here.
Momentum because our campaign is tapping into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. Because we are optimistic and excited about what we can do together. And because we know it is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
And in this final push to win over those still undecided voters that you mentioned, Savannah, the Harris campaign over the weekend released a 2-minute closing ad specifically targeting those voters.
So, Vaughn, quickly, what can we expect on this final full day of campaigning from the Trump camp?
He's got 4 final stops here in battleground North Carolina and Raleigh. Our man Tony Butler will give you a sense here. This is sunrise, and already there are several thousand who are coming out for Donald Trump's final North Carolina event. He's then going to make his way to Reading, Pennsylvania for an event, as well as Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, before finishing the night in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's the same place that he finished off his 2016 and 2020 campaigns. This is a sprawling, scrambling 7 battleground states, or even more potentially battleground states, and this is where it shows where the campaign's final focus is for Donald Trump. That's North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, which, if he were to win those, would likely put him over 270 electoral college votes.
And Allie, quickly, what do we know about the vice president's plans for Election Day and night?
Yeah, guys, we know she's going to be spending the day and night at her alma mater of Howard University right here in Washington, D.C. And campaign officials say they are prepared for what could be a very long night or week ahead as we wait for the final results.
All right, Vaughn and Allie, thank you both.
Well, let's dig into a poll from a red state that's been in Donald Trump's column in the past that set off shockwaves in the world of politics over the weekend. The latest Des Moines Register poll from Saturday shows Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Trump by 3 percentage points in Iowa. She's up 47% to 44% in the state, which Mr. Trump won by 8 percentage points back in 2020. Now, that is within the margin of error. This poll certainly an outlier, but it does have a very reliable track record, and it's sparking questions over whether this red state could be in play on Tuesday. Mr. Trump was quick to dismiss the poll at his rally in Pennsylvania Sunday.
They just announced a fake poll. Hey, think of it. Right before the election that I'm 3 points down. I'm not down in Iowa. I got $28 billion for the farmers. $28 billion.
So is Iowa back to being a battleground? Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett. She is in Cedar Rapids this morning. Maura, good morning. So I know you, just to put in context how shocking kind of these results were, we're scrambled there. We were texting over the weekend. You were sent to Iowa because this sort of came on our radar. What could be behind this shift of support toward Vice President Harris?
Yes, Vanessa, this was definitely a surprise, both here in the state and nationally, obviously. And part of that is because it's an outlier compared to other polls that have come out in the state. But it's also a significant shift from the same poll, the same pollsters, previous polls in recent months. Back in June, for example, then President Democratic nominee was behind Trump by 18 points. So Joe Biden behind him by 18 points. Then you fast forward to September when Kamala Harris was the nominee. Trump was still leading the poll by 4 points. And so there's a big flip-flop here, and that's something that even Democratic and Republican strategists here have kind of thrown big question marks at me since I've been back in the state. But the big shift that we've seen in this poll is Kamala Harris seemingly pulling both independent women and senior women more into her camp, and that's something part of the electorate that's very important here. There's also the important context that over the summer, Iowa passed a very strict 6-week abortion ban, and that's why we are potentially seeing more women shift or coming in more for turnout purposes. And so this is something that everyone is kind of flagging as this big outlier. But the pollster, J.N. Seltzer, has typically been right in the past. She has an incredibly strong record, known as the gold standard. She's been an outlier pretty much every time before she's put out a poll, but she's also been right.
And Maura, you spoke with voters there in Lynn County, that's east of Des Moines. How are they reacting to this poll?
voters here were basically just as surprised as we were when we saw that poll come out. For context, here in Lynn County, the split of voter registrations is about 40% Democrat, 40% Independent, and 20% Republican. So it's a little bit of a diverse set of voters that we were able to talk to. Keep in mind, Iowa is largely a very rural, very red state. But I want you to hear some of the conversations I had with voters here yesterday.
It's kind of nice to see people are thinking twice, thinking more of not just kind of one-sided, but more open-minded.
This is has been historically a swing state between Republican and Democrat, so I'm not going to be shocked if Harris wins the state.
Traditionally, Iowa has tended to lean more conservative, and so finding that Harris was ahead was very nice. It was a nice surprise for us.
You heard the one gentleman mention that Iowa used to be a swing state or is seen as a swing state. In recent memory, that hasn't been the case. I lived here back in 2019 and 2020 reporting on the Iowa caucuses, and it was always a given that it was going to be Republican held. And so the fact that this is all being called into question potentially when Donald Trump is still on the ballot, having performed so successfully here in the past, is why it's coming out to be potentially a really last-minute battleground state this year, guys.
All right, more cute little guest star there, too, in that interview. Thank you so much.
All right, let's continue our conversation with NBC News chief political analyst Chuck Todd. We'll talk about Iowa in a sec. Let's start with sort of the bigger picture here. And just obviously our poll shows it's as close as is humanly possible. Does either side then have any sort of momentum or anything, especially considering how many people have already voted?
I think if you think campaigns still matter here at the end, meaning that the conversation that's being had at the end, if that stuff matters, Harris has a little bit of momentum. And there is some data to back that up that you do see some shift. Like we saw a very slight, subtle shift towards her a little bit. But you gotta, we know that Donald Trump does really well with voters who are not common voters. They're very difficult to poll. And if you told me he ended up doing really well and sort of sweeping the battlegrounds, it'll mean, okay, we still can't always poll those, basically those unreliable voters. I don't know how else to describe them.
Who don't vote in midterms, who don't vote any other time.
And they've been making a real effort. It's a hard demographic group to rely on. And you look at who she's relying on, and these are voting groups that show up, like senior women. Like they're showing up, 95% chance they show up. Younger men of color don't have the same statistical edge there about voter turnout.
Let's now talk about Iowa. So as Maura pointed out, in very recent memory, been read, but not always the case. How significant do you find that poll to be?
Well, Iowa is surrounded by battleground states.
Yeah.
Half of the state is, two of the state's 4 congressional districts are heavily contested. They're coin flip races. The Omaha media market, we know the Omaha congressional district in Nebraska is that single electoral vote that does get awarded. There has been more money spent in that media market than ever before. That bleeds into Western Iowa. So you also, it is borders Minnesota, it borders Wisconsin. So when I say it is surrounded by battleground states, I mean it. And that matters, right? That leaks over. This is not as if there hasn't been a conversation. Those 2 House races, one in Des Moines and one in the Cedar Rapids market, abortion rights is about the top issue that the 2 candidates are using. You throw it in with theirs. So you sit there and you say, hey, maybe there is something going on with older white voters. We see evidence of Harris overperforming with them in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. There's a Kansas poll, okay, about also a state demographically looks a lot like Iowa, very rural, very white, also, though, higher than average in the Midwest of college-educated folks. And we saw that Trump only had a 5-point lead there. There is a little bit of evidence that it is a signal. It doesn't mean Harris is going to win Iowa. Right. But it does mean she may have seen a movement among older white voters that we have been detecting ourselves, that maybe this is the signal like, oh, if she wins the presidency through the North, which is where her path is, this Iowa poll could be the canary in the coal mine.
Let's quickly talk about the thing you mentioned yesterday at Meet the Press, which is your worst fear, that we should mentally prepare for the possibility of, after Election Day, a tie.
Oh, look, it is a flaw in the Constitution, okay? It is a landmine sitting there, unfortunately ready to explode. Because, yes, the House would pick the president, but before we got to a certified electoral vote count of 269, those 538 people will get lobbied. This is we have these laws about faithless electors, and I almost hesitate to even use the phrase right now because I think people are going, what is he talking about? If we're talking about faithless electors in 3 days, it's been a really close election.
Yes.
Hopefully, in 3 days, I'm not saying the phrase faithless electors. We don't have to worry about that. But it does remind, I think a lot of us believe that this is an election that's going to look a lot more like 2000 and 2004, which you had the battleground split between the two parties, and you had the winner not clearing more than 284 electoral votes, so which would be a very, very narrow win. And we handled it okay in 2000 and okay in 04.
Yeah.
Good luck, America.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Thank you for that
Let's go vote.
anxiety-inducing last note. Great to have you, Chuck. Well, young voters ages 18 to 29, known as Gen Z, are a critical voting bloc this election. And much attention has been focused on trying to snag their vote, especially on college campuses, especially in battleground states. But along with it, misinformation has targeted those same potential voters, worrying some the confusion could keep them home.
Among the many questions about what will happen in this election, will Gen Zers turn out to vote?
Have you pledged to vote?
According to our most recent NBC News Stay Tuned Gen Z poll powered by SurveyMonkey, an overwhelming majority of them say they will. 84% of 18 to 29-year-olds surveyed said they were at least somewhat likely to vote. And both campaigns need them to. With nearly 41 million eligible voters, they have the potential to swing the election. But in these crucial last moments before polls close, college students have been the targets of misinformation campaigns, seemingly aimed at causing confusion for first-time voters.
I know you got a text.
Yes. Tanisha Vanden Langenberg is the student body vice president at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay.
So it said something about if you vote in a state that you're not eligible in, according to Wisconsin statute, whatever statutes, you could face up to 3 years in prison or $10,000 in fines.
Wow. What did you think when you got it?
For me, I was just kind of like, what the heck? I know that a lot of other students were confused by it, and it created a lot of talk on campus where it was like, wait, can I vote or can't I vote, or how do I vote, or do I have to go back home? Because a lot of students can't just fly back to Texas to vote, you know.
Students don't need to fly home, despite the threat in that text received by an estimated thousands of college-age people in Wisconsin. College students are able to vote in the state where they attend school. In addition, it is not illegal to be registered in 2 states, although, of course, it is illegal to vote in 2 states. In Pennsylvania, the Secretary of State is alleging some students were improperly denied voter registration and in-person mail ballot requests because they did not have a Pennsylvania driver's license or were registered in another state. Efforts Vanden Langenberg worries are meant to keep her and her peers home.
Why do you think somebody sent that text?
I think that college students definitely have the ability to make an impact on this election, and there are definitely people who do not want us to vote. And so if you confuse college students or confuse people who are already on edge about whether they are going to vote or who they're going to vote for, they're just going to say, oh, well, I don't get it. It's not worth it.
Thanks to those students for speaking with us about those concerns. We'll keep you updated on it. Well, it's a stormy start to the week. This morning, we've got severe weather threat from Texas to Missouri. We have Michelle Grossman in studio tracking it all for us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, Savannah. Yeah, it was a stormy weekend, and we are starting out stormy as well. You can see radar showing us all the activity that's happening from the south central states up through the Midwest, and that's going to be the story all throughout this Monday, and then eventually moving to the east on Election Day. So this is what it looks like right now. Heavy rain falling. That's where you're seeing those brighter returns, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. Even seeing a little purple popping in the state of Texas, that could indicate some hail, and that will be a threat throughout the day. Back behind the system, it's colder, so we're seeing some snow falling in the Rockies. That's going to start to taper off before we see another storm system moving in the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to bring some heavy mountain snow over the next several days. This is what it looks like in terms of the severe weather threat. You want to stay weather aware today because 17 million people at risk. We're looking at damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Also hail, that's going to be a concern. Several tornadoes are possible too, especially in this orange area where you see this hatched area. Places like Fort Smith, Tulsa, Ardmore into Dallas could see some strong storms, tornadoes as we go throughout the evening hours. We're even seeing tornado warnings early this morning. So 7 million people at risk for flood alerts because another concern is some very heavy rainfall. We're seeing that now, and it's not moving very fast. So it's going to train over the same areas. We're looking at places like Tulsa, Wichita, Oklahoma City, Harrison. That's where we're seeing a flash flood warning. And we're going going to see those warnings pop in and out. What does a warning mean? It means flooding is happening now or it's imminent. So we're going to watch this cold front move to the east as we head throughout today, bringing the threat for severe storms from the south all the way to the Midwest. And then here's Election Day. We're looking at that system moving into the Midwest, and that's going to bring some wet weather. This is what it looks like on Election Day. Unfortunately, we will need those umbrellas at the polls from portions of the south, the Gulf Coast, into parts of the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, even some snow on the backside of this in parts of the upper Midwest. Now look at the Intermountain West. We're looking at temperatures in the 40s. We're looking at the chance for some heavy snowfall, even some blizzard warnings there. That's a really strong system that's moving on shore. And then as we head towards the Northeast, New England, weather looking good there too. Could see some showers too in the Southeast tomorrow.
All right, as we're maybe heading into fallish, coldish.
You know, it's funny, and then that's more like a spring setup, right?
Again.
Yeah, I know.
It's like a whiplash. All right, Michelle, thank you so much. Sure. Well, this morning, the entertainment world is mourning the loss of an icon. Quincy Jones has died at 91 years old. His impressive career spanned more than 70 years, ranging from producing Michael Jackson's historic Thriller album to writing award-winning film and television scores. For more on his incredible legacy, let's bring in our friend, entertainment journalist and pop culture expert, Brian Balthazar. Brian, good morning. Always great to have you with us. So let's just start taking a look back at his music career, working with some of the biggest names in the business. I just mentioned Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra. Walk us through some of these biggest collaborations and why it was that so many legends wanted to work with him.
Right. Good morning. So it really is impossible to have listened to a radio or seen a movie or watched television and not have been touched by Quincy Jones's music. We're talking collaborations and working with Dizzy Gillespie, Ella Fitzgerald, Count Basie, skip ahead to Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett, and then contemporary artists like Michael Jackson, Snoop Dogg, Chaka Khan, and Queen Latifah. And it's a testament to his talent and his range, really. I mean, this is decades and decades of work, working with amazing artists, but also creating great artists in the process. A gifted and talented instrumentalist himself, he would go on to compose and compose soundtracks, create the soundtrack of our lives, really.
As we said, his career also included music for film and TV, soundtrack of our lives. You know, it's those moments, those shows, those movies that we love and we recognize. What are some of the bigger movies and shows he was attached to?
Really some incredible ones. Okay, so of course, if you're a sitcom watcher, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was not only behind the music in which he created a young star in Will Smith, but also he was an executive producer on that show. And one of the writers, Andy Borowitz, said he actually based this in some part on Quincy's family. Quincy had 7 kids, and this was kind of a reflection of his life, but also much more serious content like the series Roots, the original series Roots, in which he was honored for his soundtrack there. Again, an incredible series that was lauded for its music and its content there. But he also was behind the inauguration of Bill Clinton. He wrote the theme to Sanford and Son, and he's done the score for the Academy Awards. So he really, again, this is the hyphenate. This is the definition of a hyphenate who can really do it all.
Absolutely. He also was known for using his art as activism at times. Famously, he had a hand in the We Are the World Music for Africa project. But can you talk a little bit about some of those bigger projects?
Right. A great example is We Are the World, because this is a collaboration of artists that it's hard to imagine this happening today. If you look in that room, the amount of coordination, and then, of course, having a great hit song, which he co-wrote with Lionel Richie. This was to end famine, or at least contribute to help Ethiopia and the problem of famine and starvation in this country and in the world, I should say, in the world. And so that's one of them. And, of course, the Roots, you can't underestimate the power of that series of Roots. And talking about our Black history, and this really started a dialogue in the culture about slavery and the history of the Black culture and African-American people and the struggles that they've gone through. Quincy Jones has always kind of connected the power of music and its ability to connect and create emotion and reaction in people. And whether that was creating a funny song or creating something really moving, it was something he clearly did really well. 91 years old, what an amazing career. And it's impossible, again, to not have been touched in some way by his work.
Yeah, amazing career, amazing life. Brian, we so appreciate you on this breaking news, getting up early to walk us through it. Quincy Jones passing away at the age of 91. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.